And welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema Spooktober Edition, the #1 podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your vampiric host, Daniel Alexander.
I'm your frightened host, Sean.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España, no habla español.
Ooh, muy bien.
This week, we hope you watch along with us for Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954.
Science couldn't explain it, but there it was, alive in the deep, deep waters of the Amazon. A throwback to a creature that had existed 100 million years ago, immensely strong and destructive.
Directed by Jack Arnold. He was responsible for The Incredible Shrinking Man, a lot of Gilligan's Island episodes, and a variety of other popular works into the 1970s. Starring Richard Carlson as Dr. David Reed, Julia Adams as Kay Lawrence, Richard Dennings as Dr. Mark Williams, Antonio Moreno as Dr. Carl Mayaya. Mayaya?
Close enough.
And Nestor Paiva as Captain Lucas. All right. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to do a little plot synopsis.
Please do.
Cool. Dr. Carl Mayaya is working in the Amazon when he discovers a fossilized hand of a creature he can't identify. So naturally, he proceeds to snap it at the wrist and take it back to his lab. There he recruits David Reed, Kay Lawrence, and Mark Williams to go back to the Amazon and finish uncovering the fossilized remains. Little do they know, its ancestor still roams the jungle. Overall impressions. How'd you like it, guys?
So, I'll start off.
All right. Hit me.
It's an interesting film. There are a lot of elements and themes that I really enjoyed that I'll get into more deeply as we move along here. But the creature itself and the way some of the characters acted in response to the scenario fell a bit flat for me. And as a result, while it was an enjoyable film, only about 80 minutes long, at the same time, it hasn't been one of my favorite films that we've watched so far. So I'll leave it at that. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think time has not done this film justice.
Well, it's done it justice. I don't know if it's done it any favors.
Yeah, any favors.
Oh, any favor. Okay, yeah. It hasn't done it any favors. Just the way they would introduce the monster in the beginning just felt really flat to me. It felt more like it felt a little comedic at times for me in the very beginning. It does pick up in the later half. Mm-hmm. I start feeling more engaged with the film, mm-hmm. But for the first half, and when they're first just hinting at this monster, I didn't like the approach personally. I thought the suit design was very well done overall. I thought it looked menacing. But at the same time, I didn't like certain underwater scenes where they'd show him swimming. I feel like they showed too much of him, and it just seemed too much like a guy in a suit.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Too much, too often.
Yeah, too much, too often, and it took away from the mystery of this monster. A good example of a film that does this well is Alien. They do a great job of just kind of showing you just enough to keep you guessing and wondering what this creature looks like. You're kind of filling in the blanks of the rest of the body of the creature in your mind. Versus this one, so many medium, wide shots of this monster kind of swimming around, walking around all awkwardly on land. It didn't really hit the mark for me.
Yeah, they had noir to draw from even then, so you would think they'd take inspiration and really play with the shadows, hide this monster a bit more. For me, I didn't find much to hook me. The novelty of the theater-like performances and the hokey effects wore off pretty quickly, and I found my attention drawn to nitpicking, which is always unfortunate.
Uh-oh.
And there's a lot to nitpick.
Uh-oh.
So the movie clearly plays to a God-fearing public, I think, especially for 1954. There's a palpable fear of evolution that this movie's playing towards. And that's a subtext that runs throughout the runtime. Evolution is played like a sinister character that can create an ungodly monster. It's even said to have failed at one point during one of the early scenes when referring to a fish with proto-lungs. Almost like it has its own plans and inclinations. Did you guys feel that fear of science, that fear of evolution?
I actually got the opposite feeling.
Really?
Yeah. I thought there was a lot of optimism about science and its role in humanity's growth and development.
Through like bioevolution.
Yeah, through bioevolution.
I remember, I remember there was a specific line where someone said something about being excited to study this creature to like enhance...
For the sake of space travel.
Yes.
For the sake of space
travel.
travel.
I agree they were excited about that. I meant not science in general, but specifically the fear of evolution, because I thought maybe that was something that was being indoctrinated into the public at that time. So maybe it was a new idea.
Well, through the character of David Reed, the main character, we find that he's very naturalistic, where he's the one who, maybe to the group's detriment, is not wanting to harm the creature, but mostly to study it because they can learn a lot from it. And while it's seen as a evolutionary anomaly, it is still something to be studied and potentially used for the benefit of mankind. So I think in part,
I see that.
So I think in part, yes, there's a little bit of a fear from some of the characters, but I think overall, because the main character himself is putting forth these ideas about this is something to be celebrated and studied and viewed from afar, as opposed to, killed like Dr. Williams wanted to do the whole film. Man, he had a hard on for that monster, I'll tell you what. We'll get into that later. But the main character, David, he just really wanted to study for the sake of mankind. And, that gets to a point later on where one of the doctors, I think, was either killed or maimed. Oh, no, I think it was the doctor that was maimed by the monster about halfway or more in the film after the creature was captured and escaped.
Right.
And David, the main character, he said something to the effect of, what a waste of knowledge and experience if the doctor were to die. So again, it's the pursuit of knowledge for the sake of mankind, and any disruption towards that is seen as a failure.
I see that. But you could really see the public perception reflected in some of these characters' ideals in terms of space travel.
Oh, for sure.
I thought that was really powerful. The characters talk about how, like you said, how their research will support the pursuit of space travel. And the way they talk about it is like the most noble thing a man can do. I found it interesting that they make the distinction between how their research could also be a financial boon, but that's never included as part of the space travel goals. It's either you can make money or you can do this the best pursuit man can do and follow the stars,
I really appreciated the optimism.
It's refreshing.
Overall. Yeah, it really is refreshing. Actually, I have a question here, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
It's related. I feel like there's a severe lack of optimism nowadays in movies about humanity and the world, especially when contrasted with this film. So do you guys feel that that's actually the case, that there is a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? What are the name of the guys in The Big Lebowski? That don't believe in
nihilists.
anything? Nihilist. It's much more nihilistic nowadays, I feel like. Do you guys feel like that's actually the case now, that much more films are nihilistic and don't really have that optimism anymore?
I personally feel that I agree. I do think it is more nihilistic nowadays, but I think it's because they're just trying to follow where the culture has kind of gone in general. That's fair. You just see so much of that negativity through social media. It just feels like it's trending.
Yeah, I guess where I'm getting at with this is I really appreciate the optimism in the characters and how they spoke about furthering not just their own individual agendas about, their own lives, but about society and humanity as a whole. And I found that really refreshing, and that actually influenced a bit how much I enjoyed the film, despite some of the other lackings in other aspects of the film.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoy, that's one part of Mark Williams' character that I enjoyed. That he even though he was a little bit of a antagonist.
Oh, he definitely was the antagonist.
I wouldn't say would you say he's the antagonist? I think, the creature from the Black Lagoon is still the main antagonist. And
and
Mark had some good intentions within, he was a bit of a complicated character, more complex, I suppose,
but overall he was there to help them succeed. Like, he wasn't sabotaging the mission, or he even had really positive traits towards the end, especially.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. He was the one that was touting about this bioevolution that we can achieve if we captured this creature and we studied them so that we can survive the harshness of space. And I really enjoyed that character. What I was unsure of with this character, though, was his relationship with Kay, the female character in the movie. I felt, was there some kind of sexual tension?
Well, from his end.
From his end, right.
Definitely from his end.
No, definitely his end, yeah. She never indicated any kind of desire.
At one point, he walks up when they're having, when Kay and David are having a moment. He walks up and he's holding this large harpoon gun in front of him, suggestively. I was like, you might as well just walk him and say, "Me big penis man, me better man."
Oh my goodness,
I love that.
Well, actually, when he does come out with that big gun, there's actually a musical cue there that was a bit like suspenseful. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but almost like he was ready to kill David.
Or to make the audience worried that he
at that moment, and the movie definitely made me feel like he was eventually going to try and kill David.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I think so too.
I really thought that he was going to try and kill David later in the film.
Oh, I never got that impression. Interesting.
There is there's the one moment where they fight in the cabin.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be the start of it, and then
but they're fighting to see who's going to save the other. Like, it's so wholesome. It's the most wholesome fight.
No, it's more that Williams wanted to join David, but David didn't want him to join him.
Williams wanted to distract the monster, to be a human shield, and David was
to then kill the monster, not to get the tree out of the lagoon.
I thought he was just trying to help Mark.
No. He wanted to kill the monster, so he thought any chance that he could get in front of it.
Yeah, he told David, I'll be the bait.
Yeah.
And then when he's going after me, you can get at him.
Oh, I interpreted that completely differently, that they were each trying to protect each other.
And not only that, but right after that scene when David is trying to clear the log from the front of the boat, you see the creature coming towards David, and you see Williams from the back, which we didn't know if he was going to come there or not, but we could kind of tell he was. He shoots one of the harpoons towards the monster, but it happens to go right past David, like right over his left shoulder. So much so that I thought, were they trying to make us feel like Williams was taking a shot against David rather than the creature? But then, Williams was going after the creature thereafter. So I want to address one point about him being the antagonist or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm conflicted because on the one hand, going back to our optimism chat briefly, he does say something to the effect of, but science is always taking the remote chance. Why don't we try it? We might still turn failure into success.
The chances of finding anything are remote.
Well, but science is always taking the remote chance. Why don't we try it? We might still turn failure into success.
Well, that's just one thing, Mark. Going into unexplored territory with a woman.
Which you don't hear all that often anymore, which I found super refreshing, that viewpoint. But again, at the same time, Williams was presented as pretty antagonistic throughout the film, whether it was lording over Kay and David anytime that they were together. Like when Kay was helping David out of his flippers, he just comes in and is like, stop fooling around.
Come on, David. You can play house later.
And then, get to work. Or anytime that one of the other characters brings up to Kay about Williams, she's unsure about, what's going on there. And then he's always kind of looking at her almost leeringly. I think so anyways. So he's never far away from any negativity going on in the film. Not to mention the fact that, well after they want to leave, he's the one that wants to stay and try to capture or kill the creature rather. And only with Lucas, the boat captain, putting a knife to his neck, being like, no, we're leaving.
On the water, the Capitan makes the decisions.
So I think, he's like that classic character of, he's too blinded by his ambitions to see what's going on. And I think in that regard, he's, I guess I would say, a secondary antagonist to the film.
Mark, you know what? Mark is actually an anti-hero of this film.
Oh, you hear that, Sean? Anti-hero.
Oh, so he's not the hero, but he's also not the antagonist. He's in the middle.
Yeah, he is.
They're reflecting on positivity and negativity. They're yin and yang.
Wow, deep. I didn't know films could be this deep.
East and West. This is a fight of culture.
What? No, not quite.
No,
not quite.
Did you guys notice when David is getting flowers for Case and these underwater plants? He comes up and he hands it to her and she's so happy. I don't know if that was supposed to be beautiful in color, but to me it looked like a bundle of sticks.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
Yeah, that didn't come
random
out too well.
Seaweed.
I appreciate the sentiment because he dove down, he collected what he needed to, but he thought of her and wanted to give her something, and especially and that kind of fits with her, what character she does have, because
she's great.
She goes for a swim later on, and she's really enjoying the area, enjoying the water. So I think this is something that she's really passionate about. So I can see her appreciating that more than the regular person that would get that and be like, oh well, thanks.
Let's talk about that swim. So, like everybody who boats around in the Amazon, they want to go swimming immediately.
Oh, this is a joke.
So on the way there, they pass some crocs, and they're hearing about all the deadly animals in the Amazon. As soon as she's alone, she decides it's time for some laps.
And not just like a short little lap. No. Let's go across the entire lagoon.
Guys, I counted it. It was 3 minutes of film time of her swimming in one direction.
Dude, that scene lasted way too long. I mean, it got to the point where it was voyeuristic from the creature's perspective.
Oh, that was some Scooby-Doo stuff right there.
It was hilarious. She is literally at one point upside down and hanging in a position that you would see like a trapeze artist hanging off of like a little rope when they're swinging around. It was filmed exactly like that. On the one hand, very graceful, very beautiful shot. Just I liked a lot of the underwater scenes when you don't see the monster swimming towards you. But on the other hand, when she was swimming or some of the other characters were swimming, I thought, wow, that was really framed well. That was really shot well. It looked majestic, almost, especially her swim. So I thought it fulfilled that role. But again, we'll get into it in a minute, but I had some issues with like her character overall and how she was more like the object more than anything else.
So yeah, I feel like the purpose of that scene, that swimming scene, was really to show the creature kind of exploring Julie's character and kind of show him like being curious and kind of falling in love.
Yeah, that was the King Kong moment, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
With this character. And I think that's why they made the scene so long, but I just feel like it didn't really hit the mark on what he was trying to do.
It made her look really stupid too.
It made her look stupid. Yeah, one. And two, it just almost they kept the music menacing a little bit, even though he wasn't really attacking her or doing anything. I think if they changed the score a little bit at that moment, showing maybe his perspective for a moment of trying to explore her with hesitation.
Oh yeah,
they do.
I thought they should have done a lot more of that, more of POV of the monster instead of just showing him wide every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but what I was saying is the soundtrack should have reflected that as well,
got
which
it.
it really didn't. So you just kind of I feel like it confuses the audience a little bit on what's going on in that moment. And like what you were saying about her character being more like a plot device versus an actual character. Yeah, I completely agree. She doesn't do anything, but she's just the pretty face.
Well, we're told she's a scientist.
Yeah, she says one scientific thing in the very beginning of the film, and then that is it. And did you guys notice that when everyone else is looking sweaty and dirty in the Amazon jungle.
I had an exact note.
She looks like she has had hair and makeup done every 5 minutes. Like she looks pristine, in perfect condition, glowing. And I was like, what is going on here? To me, it felt, I think that is a sign of the times for Hollywood. You know, back then when they would just make the female character just always look as beautiful as possible. Like that was the way filmmaking was supposed to be.
Yeah. And also David is, so there's an earlier scene where David is unsure about whether to bring Kay into unsure territory.
Because she's a woman.
Because she's I'm not sure about bringing a woman into unsure territory.
Oh, brother.
And it was almost shocking to hear a character imply that a woman can't look after herself and not have anybody in the group refute him. Wow, that's a different time. Mark eventually speaks up for her, but it's clearly only to get the mission going, to get what he wants.
Going into unexplored territory with a woman.
I'm not afraid, David, and we've come this far.
Well, I've always found Kay was able to take care of herself.
But like nobody has a problem with that, including her.
I mean, normally I would vehemently agree with you. I will say, based on her, how the way she conducted herself on that research mission, I could kind of see why he thought maybe we shouldn't bring her.
Everybody knows her. I don't know about this Kay.
She's kind of spacing out. For all they know, there could be like, piranha or fish in that water that could attack her or something like that. She's just casually going along. During that swim, she keeps feeling something on her foot, and I swear, like, can she not see at least a little bit through the water?
Well, the water's crystal clear. You'd think.
I guess apparently.
Well, it's not supposed to be crystal clear.
Every time they show it, it's crystal clear.
Well, it's for the audience to be able to see, but it's supposed to be the Black Lagoon. I think it's supposed to be very
every underwater shot is like 80 feet of visibility.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there were so many scenes where it looks like they should be seeing the monster at all times, but they don't. So in my head, I kind of just filled in that gap, thinking like, okay, it's just really murky.
I thought it was really beautiful because she wanted to go swimming. That's why, because it was crystal clear Amazonian waters, lagoon waters.
There's something beautiful about murky water. I mean,
I guess
it doesn't have to be crystal clear. Yeah.
By the way, something that kept bothering me was that they would do these insert shots of underwater wildlife, but during the whole runtime of the entire movie, you don't see the smallest fish on screen when there's a character on screen.
That's so true.
So it's like, oh my God, they have these studio pool shots and then they cut in nature documentary. I couldn't stand that.
There was one scene where they poison the water and all the fish are like floated up to the top because they've been paralyzed by the poison, and you do kind of see the characters there, but again, that's probably because they just got like some dead fish and
they went to
threw in the water. Yeah, exactly. Pivoting off of that, if I may, I want to talk about some of the characters' choices and actions throughout the film. Like, for example, Kay, she keeps getting touched by the creature, which, by the way, he's a little bit of a foot pervert because he keeps going for her feet. He's a little bit of a weirdo in that regard. But anyways, he keeps brushing up against her foot multiple times, and she's like so clueless with regard to that. And anytime that he comes nearby, she's just completely oblivious to him. There was one point where the creature is coming up on Kay and a guy named Z, like one of the helpers on the boat.
Yeah.
And I swear there was a shot where she turns around and sees him in full view, and then turns back around and then cuts to the monster's perspective. He's walking closer to her, and then finally, like, she does.
I remember that. I thought the same thing.
The slowest double take, and she goes, "Oh no!"
She has some good scream moments, at least 5.
Again, but like her purpose in the film was to scream.
She's a scientist, Sean. Can you stop pigeonholing her?
No, I will not. No.
Her startup time to screaming, so she's like slowly putting her hand to her face and like
taking
breathing in.
Yeah, it was
in slow motion every time, and I was like, what kind of reaction is that?
It's hilarious. There were at least 4 to 5 different interactions between the creature and Kay, and every single time she gets surprised by it. Like, this thing is walking around, breathing heavily, kind of sloshing about. You can hear it kind of stomping, right? It's not trying to be subtle. At least I don't think it's trying to be subtle. And yet she's just surprised by all of it. I mean, whether it's on the boat, whether it's on the land when, you know, she gets attacked with the helper, and which hilariously, by the way, it picks her up, and then David comes by. It's like, okay, forget it. and then just gently puts her back down and then just leaves.
Yeah, this isn't really a character fault. I mean, I guess this is more writing, but it makes them seem dumb. Kay and, not Mark, David. So David would go up, Kay Williams, it's incredible how much I love you after only 6 months of dating. Oh, David, when will we get married? When we safely get back from this safe mission, baby.
You really? I totally missed that last line.
That wasn't verbatim, but there was a scene almost exactly like that. Like, oh, okay, you've been dating 6 months. That was very organic, guys. Beautiful.
Yeah, that was. There were a lot of talk. Surprisingly enough, a lot of talk about the relationship. I guess maybe that was like a studio thing, like. And we can't have enough of this stupid-looking monster. We gotta have some relationship drama.
I think
it brings in the money.
I think it was they were trying to just push that jealousy, Mark's jealousy onto the story.
Yeah, the antagonist. Yeah.
So pretty much, I mean, I think that was the main reason.
The other hero.
The anti-hero.
My goodness.
2 heroes, baby.
How many times did that creature, by the way, stick his hand through one of the windows in there and just nobody notices at all? Like the poor maimed doctor, is like.
And that's another thing. Okay, he doesn't have a sock in his mouth. He just has one little bandage.
Yeah, he could go like,
wrap.
Help.
I think the body actor was sick that day, so they just threw in that arm in a few scenes. Okay, cut that in.
Okay,
that's Hollywood, baby.
Speaking of monster arms, right? So the first and second reveal of this monster in the film, right? When it's just that what's the name of that first scientist early in the movie?
That is Maya.
Yeah,
Maya.
Maya.
Dr. Maya. And his 2 little lackeys. When they first discover the fossil. Oh, which by the way he rips the fossil out of the mountain.
I mentioned that before. Yeah.
Oh my god! It's like
a new scientific discovery. Karate chop.
Yeah, not very careful. This archaeologist is.
Which he calls a skeleton. I don't know if that was just in the 1950s. They didn't have a distinction between.
That was not a skeleton.
Oh, well, yeah, it was obviously a fossil, but he calls it a skeleton.
Right.
I don't know if there just wasn't a distinction between the two in the 1950s. They called it the same thing. Like, a scientist should know better.
Well, the fossil record was around during that time, so that's...
Yeah, it was just bad writing. Bad writing. But back to the hand. So when they first reveal the monster, it's like he just sticks his hand out in like broad daylight and just puts it on the ground.
He was angry about his ancestor being touched. No!
And then you see him like scratching the ground as he just puts his hand back into the lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we see the second time he's revealed?
His leg.
Wrong.
His hand going towards Kay's foot? Like the pervert he is?
You see the same exact shot a second time, except they cut it early.
You think
they
it was flipped?
it? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice
he
that.
sticks his hand out again, and then but instead of it like him going back into the lagoon, it just cuts there.
They didn't have the budget for 2 hand shots.
Or it would be hilarious if they did the other hand now.
It was horrible. Oh, and when the creature, when he does his first kills, he kills those 2 like lackeys. Or I don't know why I keep calling them lackeys. Is there a better?
They're employees.
Sure.
Helpers. They're
lackeys. So anyway, the helpers. When he goes in to kill them, there's a part. Hold on, I wrote this in my note. Let me.
I have a thought about that too.
When you see the creature's first kill, the film tries not to show too much of him, so they end up just showing glimpses of his hands. And there's a particular scene where one of the men try to defend themselves and attempt to punch the creature. And it almost does like a human-like parry with one hand. And with the other hand, he simultaneously grabs the guy in the face and drops him. it looked like some kind of MMA move instead of it seeming, feeling like an actual creature of the deep.
That's millions of years of evolution right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
and to support your point, the guy had a knife. He was trying to attack him with a knife, so the creature thought, danger, I know what knives are, and I'm going to parry this and then get you on your weak spot, human, on your head. Which that monster always went for the head too. Interesting enough.
Yeah, he was
another
he was
smart move. Yeah. So yeah, I just felt like they did such a bad job at trying to emulate what an ancient sea amphibious monster would do, and just the choreography was not good.
Oh, speaking of which, so when they're back at the lab near the beginning of the movie, one of the scientists, some side character, sees the fossilized hand and goes, "It must have been very strong."
Yes,
what?
I
saw that. I was
that.
like, what?
And nobody, that was such a line thrown at the last minute just for the audience, solely for the audience, because nobody comments on it. They just continue on their conversation and pretend he didn't say anything.
We can be sure of one thing. Whatever it was very powerful.
Yes, that fossilized hand, I could tell it was jacked.
They ignored him. The studio's like, we need to make sure people know that this creature is strong, so a scene later when we see the helpers getting killed, we know why they got killed.
Yes, it's very powerful, even though every time we see it, it's swimming only as fast as a man and can barely walk.
Flailing about in the water.
So, there's the scene where they're trying to exit the lagoon through the ship, and they see that a big tree has fallen over the
foreshadowing
the entryway.
He bicep curled them down.
Oh, right. But then he
I
wish they showed that.
He can barely fight the guy underwater. He can't rip him in half. If he can rip a tree in half,
and almost rip the boat in half.
Yeah, he was tumbling the boat and stuff.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he can
point.
the power levels are shifting.
Who else got
on the
tired
scene.
of his theme music? Every 5 seconds when he shows up, the same song.
Yeah,
the same song.
That same orchestral swell that goes on.
Never deviated once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At first I really liked it. I thought it was very fitting, but
Yeah.
it was. They were blasting it way too often.
So there was a moment where the doctor that ends up getting maimed, they go, okay, doctor, you need to watch the creature. Which, by the way, something that was, I guess, maybe unintentionally funny was the creature, when it had been poisoned, it was paralyzed. It just has the same silly looking expression, just like
Never blink.
looking at this, never blinking, looking right at the screen. And they set this guy to watch it overnight, and I just thought to myself, yeah, this fool's gonna die. Because the moment that he gets there, of course he falls asleep, and then they do a twist where you think, oh, the monster's gonna attack, but no, it's Kay. And I swear she was shrieking for half a second when she wakes him up. It's like, doctor. So yeah, at every turn, every single character acts like a fool in this film. I mean, I would say the one that surprisingly didn't was Lucas. He the whole time he was very nonchalant, devil may care almost. And he's like, yeah, there's some dangers in this water, and we have to be careful about it. And he was, for whatever reason, seeming like the most level-headed person.
Oh, Captain Lucas?
Captain Lucas on the boat.
Who definitely had a real broken English accent.
Oh, yeah. I was
he
trying
supposed to be Mexican? I have no idea.
No, well, I don't know.
To me, I felt like he was Italian or something.
Yeah, I actually thought that too.
Yeah,
funny
or
enough.
Greek or Italian.
Maybe
all
Greek,
very
yeah.
similar. Mexican, Italian, and Greek. Yeah.
I mean, the accent was so broken and so bad that I don't know. I'm basing it kind of on his look as well.
My English so bad. I believe you.
Since we're talking about a lot of funny stuff, do you mind if I mention a funny?
I wanted to talk to you real quick about what you were saying about when the creature was poisoned and they caged him up in this water pool.
They poisoned him with laudanum, right? To keep the blood warm?
No.
No.
Is that a reference?
Interview with a Vampire.
What a reference.
For those viewers that are watching every episode.
Hey,
Yeah, you gotta come back for the deep cuts.
Use that as a future promo code.
Laudum.
Oh,
To keep the blood warm, the whole thing.
Deep cut.
So he's trapped in this like bamboo kind of, with this bamboo gate on top, right?
It's like a Vietnam.
I think it was oak.
It's like a Vietnam prison.
Yeah,
Right.
it looked exactly like that, like a prisoner of war.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Subtext.
so
I have an idea
the
on that.
scientist Lucas. Oh no, I'm sorry. What was the scientist's name?
David,
No,
the
one.
one that was watching him.
Yeah,
Oh, I actually didn't write his
Toto.
name down. He was
Bandage Man.
he was like non-biologist doctor. He was like a health doctor or something like
Okay.
that. Like just some random guy that was part of the research group.
So my biggest issue with that whole scene was that how did this monster manage to break out of this bamboo cage silently?
Again,
They're
exactly.
standing
3 million years of evolution.
The guys, they're standing 3 feet away from this thing, and somehow they look back and he's like out of it, just standing there like, hey.
They set it up.
It
They
made
showed
no
him
sense.
nodding off.
And
So
it's
who tells you?
interesting how that you guys noticed that conversation, what they were talking about.
I don't remember.
The scientist was pretty much telling Kay to stop working for Mark because it's turning toxic, basically. Like he's aware of I think Mark's infatuation with her as well. And
It stopped being subtle.
Yeah, I found it interesting that they brought in like the other scientists into that conversation.
Yeah, good guy, bandage face.
Yeah, he was pretty much like, look, man, you did enough for her. I mean, for him, I know he gave you your start, but you know what? It's not worth it. Like, I was like, oh, interesting.
And the swamp man said, "Step away from my woman." Took his face.
I felt like after that, he shouldn't have even been shown in the film. Like, what was with the shots of him like waking up and watching actions happen?
I thought more was gonna happen with him too.
Yeah, nothing ended up happening with that, and it just felt like a waste of.
He was gonna be the hero at the last
A
moment
film.
who gets out of bed and like saves them all.
Or something. He's the one that at least he's the one that calls attention to the monster or something. I don't know, but
I like that night scene at least when he gets attacked. I thought the night looked really, really good.
it did. Yeah, I noticed that shot where they were kind of like panning through the ship and everyone was like
Yep, that's the one I'm
keeping
thinking of.
watch. There was like the moment of there was like a lot of tension there. They were just kind of waiting. I thought that was a beautifully shot scene for sure. They should have done more of it at night. I think it would have done the movie.
They should have done most of it at night. Yeah,
It would have done the movie more justice because a lot of it was in broad daylight.
it would have been the perfect opportunity to hide him.
Yeah.
So the film Anaconda, starring Jennifer
I
Lopez.
was thinking about Anaconda the
and
entire time.
Ice Cube, definitely took inspiration from this film, and actually one of the characters gets poisoned by the anaconda, I think early on in that film, and he's pretty much bandaged up in the ship hold for the majority of the film, and only at the end of the film does he come back and actually like help save everybody.
I completely believe you because I kept getting flashbacks to Anaconda.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, so this character is a riff on that guy from Anaconda. So I thought, oh, he's gonna get up and help, save everybody or something to that effect. But no, he just basically goes as a creature hand comes and tries to swipe him or whatever the creature thought he was gonna do.
And he was never seen again.
Oh my goodness. So, can I mention a funny?
Oh yeah.
Thank you. There were many times, I've kind of mentioned it before, but there are so many shots where the creature is going to grab Kay's foot, and only because she gets lightly distracted
You're really
does it
harping
not
on this
catch it.
foot thing.
Because it happens so many times. It was the first time it happened. She's standing on the shore. The creature gets his hand and is about to grab her, and only does David call her, and she goes, "Oh, okay," and then he slowly slinks the hand back into the lagoon, but like not like quick, but like okay, I'm gone.
Was that the scariest part for you, the foot fetish?
No, definitely.
Are you
not.
a footophobe?
No.
Was a
It's
new
just,
fetish unlocked?
but they kept showing her feet. Like they literally kept going back to it. I'm like, why do they keep showing her foot? This is so
I guess
weird.
that's not a modern thing. It's been around for a while.
Did Pulp Fiction guy make this film, or is that his
Quentin
inspiration?
Tarantino, I think he was a little tyke at that point.
Oh well, maybe that's where he got his inspiration from.
Maybe.
So another one. I have a few funnies if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Another funny. Everyone is always chain smoking pipes in like every other scene, I swear. Anytime they're doing any kind of research or not getting attacked by the creature, they're like chain smoking these pipes.
Are you making this up?
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I don't remember that
I don't
many
remember
pipes.
a single pipe.
Oh no, there were many pipes. Like
this
only
is a
about
troll.
halfway through. No, I'm serious. Only halfway through did they stop because there's danger now, so no time for smoking. But no, everyone's like chain smoking pipes is ridiculous.
I miss movies that smoked pipes and cigarettes.
Oh, that's so much more atmosphere. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like that they took that out of films nowadays, or they reduced it quite a bit.
They looked very scientific. Why don't we all smoke
More
pipes?
reason to have a fog in the air for the lighting.
Yeah, get those
definitely.
cool shafts.
Yeah.
Kay posits that the creature wants revenge for Williams attacking it in the beginning because they're wondering why the creature keeps coming back after them. We realize it's because it's infatuated with Kay.
Yeah, I don't
But-
buy the revenge angle.
Right. But that was something that they were trying to figure out, like, why is it attacking us? And they say, oh, because Williams attacked, and Williams just all cool, like, and again, he's the anti-hero at the very least, I think antagonist, but he goes and he looks into the camera and he goes, I welcome it. I welcome its revenge.
That's right.
That is an anti-hero line if I ever heard one.
Right?
That's an antagonist line.
That's
He's
not an antagonist line. He's speaking to
That's
the
Han Solo.
antagonist.
He's the Han Solo of this movie.
Yeah.
Never says I welcome it.
That's the I love you. I know, baby.
Goodness.
He is not the main antagonist.
I think the swamp monster is trying to get revenge for his father, who had his hand chopped off, and he was just chilling in the wall.
Wow, the father was the father must have had him at a very young age because all of his skin was gone. It was just bone, which takes quite a while if I know anything about
He was just hanging
science.
about. Some scientist comes up, takes his hand right off.
It would be funny if it had just perished and then he cuts like the full embodied hand.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, fossil, just cuts off an animal's hand.
I have one more.
That is when we first see him, by the way, the monster.
Fair enough. No one really cares about the dead, especially the helpers.
Oh man,
afterwards.
That's right.
Like David, I wrote a note down about that, and then David goes, "Oh, like we're all dying here. We need to get out of here." But it seemed more like because he was worried about him and Kay dying, and Carl, I guess, the Dr. Maya, than it was because more people have already died. But they pivot way too quickly from Z just died or Luis just died. All right, well, we gotta keep studying this thing.
Especially the other scientists.
Oh my goodness, they did not even mention them at all.
Yeah, they're just like, this is a dangerous place.
The dead are lucky to get a line after.
Which is hilarious. Like the first two helpers that get attacked by the creature, they go, "Oh, must have been some creature, some wild animal that attacked and killed them, or something like that." But the point is, like, dude, two of your, especially Carl. Two of your researchers just died. Haven't you known these guys forever? And you're like not even mourning their death. You're just like, oh, that happens.
What happened?
My brother was dragged down into the water by a demon.
Demon, eh? Well, that's no more far-fetched than your gill, man.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some. What are you gonna do?
The only guy that I noticed that was mourning was one of the people on the boat, of like a very minor character, because his brother
was his actual brother
into the water. That's what it took.
Yes.
But to make sure there's no grief in this film, they take out the other brother like a minute later.
Oh yeah, no, he gets taken out like 5-10 minutes later.
Yeah, we don't want people moping about in this movie.
Yeah.
And I want to speak a little bit about David's character. I enjoyed his character, actually. I felt like he was a good hero. Like he had a lot of poise and resourcefulness. I never felt like he was being too much of an idiot. You know what I mean? Like
mostly.
He was really the one guiding these people to safety, trying to get this tree out of the lagoon, always going in there, back into the lagoon, facing this creature.
Yeah.
He came off to me as very Sean Connery-esque, like early Sean Connery.
I thought that too, actually.
I see that.
In the looks and in the way he like kind of presented himself a little bit as well.
There's also something about their body type that's very much of the era too. They have I don't know if Hollywood casted these body types or if that's just what people look like. The barrel-chested and lean with like slight lean muscle.
Yeah.
Little puff of hair on the chest.
Little puff of hair. Yeah, it's very Sean Connery. They all have that body type.
Yeah, definitely. I kept thinking Sean Connery as I watched the movie. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed that character.
So I enjoyed the character too. And he was the first one to say, enough of us had died. We need to get out of here. So at least he was like the reasonable one in this situation. Although you would think after like half a dozen people had died, now he's like, oh, this is too dangerous. Not after like the first two, But at the same time,
for science,
he was too accommodating to the creature, meaning like Williams wanted to kill it while he wanted to just study it and let it be. But I think his actions and his not wanting to harm the creature ultimately led to a lot of the people's deaths on the boat. So while like I enjoyed his character, I think it was very flawed because he allowed nature to take its course, so to speak. And, for humanity, that wasn't so good.
Yeah,
you're saying Mark's the real hero?
No, he's still the antagonist. I mean, he tried to kill David.
But it is true that, yeah, some of David's actions caused basically the movie to continue, caused this creature to stay alive.
Oh, yeah, after the first few deaths, they should have taken it out, for sure.
Yeah, so they, in that regard, yeah, Mark was doing the right thing in those moments, being the hero that he is.
And also, towards the end of the film, Kay, spoilers, she gets kidnapped by the creature and is taken to this cave that David and Mark had explored earlier in the film. And she's laid out in a very beautiful way. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But when they go to rescue her, I don't want to harp on like dumb character moments, but my goodness, like they're hugging and embracing like in the middle of this cave. And they don't think maybe the creature's around here. And it's able to sneak up on them. And she has to go, David, watch out. What ends up saving them in the end was the other two people that are left alive, Carl and the ship captain Lucas. They shoot it. And finally, like, they actually hit it. And it's getting to the point where it gets riddled with bullets. It starts walking out of the cave.
Oh, yeah.
And then David is like, no, don't shoot it. As one of them is about to shoot it. Which I thought, okay, I get that. That's part of his character. That makes sense.
Good guy.
But then the end, you see it get back into the water. And then it just dies. It just floats up motionless.
Spoiler.
They was like, let it bleed.
Oh, I already said spoiler.
Well, spoiler alert, he doesn't die at the end.
Oh, fair.
Because there are sequels. He does return.
Or maybe it's son of creature of the Black Lagoon.
It didn't say it in the title.
That's true.
I think it's the same creature returns.
Well, Jaws 2 never says it's son of Jaws.
Maybe.
So we'll be back for Creature of the Black Lagoon 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Of the creature from the Black
Son
Lagoon.
of creature.
I think they tried to leave it open-ended, but I mean, he was so lifeless.
He was motionless. He was floating. No, he was floating.
He was exhausted.
He was just tired.
He had kidnapped ladies and killed a bunch of guys.
I guess so.
That's a full day.
So like that's such a repudiation of like David's character because it's like no, don't hurt it, and then you see him like dead, motionless in the water. Not a minute later.
Well, yeah, 15 bullets later, let it go.
Yeah, seriously, he's like, no, you've done enough.
It's like fucking crawling back.
Respect
into
nature.
Lagoon. Its legs are like ripped off.
He's like, put me out of my
misery. Just let him be. Let him swim.
He's like, put me out of my misery, please. Oh my goodness.
So one interesting thing that I wanted to point out during the scuba diving scenes, which there were many in this film, I'd say it's a big chunk of the movie. David's character had one scuba tank on his back while Mark had two.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I believe it was to just indicate, who was doing what, because otherwise they look so similar and they had the same exact body type.
Right, for sure.
And I know Mark is a little more blonde, but in the lagoon, you couldn't really tell
whatsoever.
Hair color at all. So once I figured that out, it was way easier for me to point out who was doing what. And here's a little trivia, a little behind the scenes. But they used a professional diver and swimmer named Rico Browning, and he was required to hold his breath for up to 4 minutes at a time for his underwater role as the gill man. So he was the fish man.
Right, no tank.
The director's logic was that the air would have to travel through the monster's gills, and thus air bubbles from his mouth or nose must not be seen. Thus the costume was designed without an air tank. But in the subsequent films, this detail was ignored, and air can be seen emanating from the top of the creature's head. They gave up on that.
The poor man suffers for nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So imagine you have to hold your breath for 4 minutes, and you cannot even release any air under there.
First of all, the monster might have been better if it was larger to hold a tank. It might have worked better.
Yeah. They should have made the monster larger. I completely agree. It looked way too similar to the humans. It would have been way more menacing.
You know, talking about visual things in the film, I really did appreciate a lot of the wider shots of some of the characters all grouped up together. Shot in a way where every character's kind of talking at a particular like vector. So to me, it felt like, you know, I'm watching a conversation, you know, despite the hokey dialogue sometimes, like a natural conversation between people based off the way that everyone was.
Yeah, it happens. You split off. It's not like in real life, people don't always gather in a circle and are talking to everybody, you know?
Oh, right. But usually a lot of films is usually one or two characters talking with one another only.
For sure.
And
I agree with you. I like that.
Yeah, in this film, you see a lot of that. Not only that, but anytime in the beginning when you had the wider shots of like the boats, just very beautifully shot.
Totally.
Agree.
So I have one more point before we wrap up here. And I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts.
Hit me.
I'm not afraid, David, and we've come this far.
Do you think this film is an allegory for man's insatiable appetite for knowledge and power and the consequences of that on nature itself?
No.
What do you guys think?
That would be represented by David, no? He's the leave nature alone character.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough, yeah. I was thinking of more of Mark Williams, of his hunger for studying this thing by killing it, because that would be the easier way to go about it, so that they could use the knowledge they gain from it to further their own, you know, whether space travel or their own adventures, what have you. So,
yeah, I see that. Maybe I don't know if that's the main theme, but definitely there's an environmental message in there. Yeah, the creature responds to their intrusion into into the environment, right? And then just goes on a killing rampage. So, yeah, I see that actually.
The environment fights back, essentially.
Yeah, and only when David recognizes that their pursuit of this knowledge is killing everybody and actually hurting them, does he recognize that, okay, we should abandon this. Like, the information that could be gained from this creature is not worth it. And even at the end, when they see the creature limp off into the water, you know, to parts unknown at that point, they think, let it be. We don't want to have anything to do with this at this point because we are barely surviving here and our lives are more important than the knowledge that could be gained from this creature.
Mark dies, right?
Yes, yeah. He gets kind of violently too. It bites him on the neck. Like they're tussling for a while, him and the creature, and then eventually it seems like it bites him on the neck.
It pulled its rebreather.
Yeah,
right?
it pulls out. It rips out the tubing.
That's right. It wasn't his neck. Yeah, he rips off the gear.
Oh, so he drowned.
Yeah.
Oh, I had misunderstood that. Okay, it looked like he had already ripped it off with one of his hands, and then he was biting the neck after that, or at least his head. The creature's head was on Mark's neck at some point, but yeah, maybe I might have just been misremembering.
Yeah, it was in that space. Right. But yeah, now that I think about that, I'm really kind of upset they let the creature's body go after all that. Like, give Mark his due, you know? He died for it.
Yeah, nobody really cared about him. He passed and like, well, we don't want to end up like that guy.
But he had the biggest harpoon of anybody.
Oh, sure. We're going to cut that out. So
no, we're not.
Harpoon stays in.
Oh, no. But actually, yeah, they don't really care. Again, going back to they don't really care about the dead until it's affecting them. Even with Mark, they're like, oh, poor Mark. All right, well, let's keep going.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Danny?
It was enjoyable, but just too many mistakes, too many lazy moments.
All right, since you're going at it, why don't you give us a score?
All right. So I'll give it a 5.5.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe a 5. Maybe a 5. I recommend it for people with foot fetishes.
Yeah. Tarantino, eat your heart out.
Definitely.
Oh, no.
And for people that are fans of the classic, other classic Universal monster films, it's just a fun film to add to your repertoire. It's different from all the films. It's the only Universal monster that delves into this atomic culture a little bit. I really enjoyed that theme, and I want to see more of it. But yeah, so I give it a 5.5, because...
Which is it?
Okay.
Gotta be definitive.
Okay, 5. I'm going to give it a 5.
All right. I'm going to go 4 out of 10 naked feet.
Oh, no. On both the score and what you said.
I think we had at least 4 naked feet shots, no?
Probably more. Perfect director.
I think it's fine if you want to introduce a younger child to the horror genre as a good first step. 8 or younger.
Yeah, there's barely any blood.
Any blood? Is there any blood?
There's no blood.
No, there is blood. They at one point they happen upon someone attacked, and they look at the ground, and there's like a pool of blood on there.
So yeah, great for children. 80 minutes, so not a big investment. Yeah, bring the whole fam.
So, keeping in line with what you guys said, I'm a little more generous to this film, I guess. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Wow.
7 untouched toes out of 10.
There were no untouched toes in this movie.
Well, he kept trying, but he couldn't get it.
Oh yeah, it's just out of grasp.
Yes. So this film made me laugh, I think, more than pretty much any of the films we've watched so far. And I think unintentionally.
That's a positive thing for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I enjoyed it. I liked a lot of the morals of the film. I keep mentioning it, but the overall optimism, I feel like, that is pervasive throughout the film. I really enjoyed, and I found it surprising, but pleasantly surprising. And I thought that was something that I really took to heart almost. And I really miss that scientific optimism of, there's so much that we could do, beyond what's happening on Earth. That, I don't think we see a lot of.
By 1970, we're going to have a space station on the moon. For sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they go, space travel will be viable in just a few years.
No problem.
And I was like, oh, man, I wish that were true. Some things that I thought that weren't great, I really did not like some of the character choices. I really enjoyed Kay's character the first 20 minutes of the film, but right up until like the first attack in the lagoon, because she was very personable. She was very chatty, but in a good way.
Yeah, she had some personality in the beginning.
She held her own, and everything, and like in the conversations and just being around, and like her stature and the way she composed herself in the beginning. But then after that, she was very much like an object to be desired upon by the creature. And at that point, she just became like Shrieking Kay to me.
The moment she swan dove off that boat, she was dead to me.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that, and then just the abrupt nature of the end. I was thinking to myself, man, how much longer is this film gonna go? Like, Kay just got kidnapped, and I saw it was like 3 minutes left. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world are they gonna wrap this up in 3 minutes? Well, they do, because David finds her, they embrace, creature attacks, the 2 people left alive gun it down. It kind of fast walks out of the cave. They stop shooting it, and then it dies in the water.
Every movie could be made shorter with a quick old gun battle.
Exactly. 3 minutes. All of those things I just said happened within a 3-minute span. Let's get out of here, boys.
So we're at that section now. What have you guys been watching lately? You mind if I take this one first?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to start it off with a little ditty called Death Becomes Her, 1992, starring Goldie Hawn, Meryl Streep, and Bruce Willis. It's an absurdist comedy about the woes of ego and the downfall. Ton of fun, a lot of against-type performances. I highly recommend it. Short and sweet. What about you guys?
Well, I watched something equally as intellectual. It was Thor, Love and Thunder.
Haven't heard of it.
No, never heard of that little movie? It's a little gem.
I don't watch indie movies.
I think it was straight to DVD.
Or foreign. Is that foreign? Hipster?
It was
It's New Zealand.
It was good. I enjoyed it for what it was. I had already had lower expectations going into it because I heard a lot of complaints about the film. So I guess I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, it was kind of what I expected, after seeing Ragnarok.
Yeah.
It's kind of in that direction. I think they overdid it with the comedy elements. Like they just really want to turn Marvel's Thor into just a little bit of a joke now.
Yeah, they do what works.
Yeah, it's working right now, but I'm starting to feel the audiences are starting to get a little tired of that. Like I'm noticing a trend going on where they're like, okay, that was cool, but now we want to bring seriousness back into the Marvel universe.
Right.
Like I'm noticing that with Thor, with the latest She-Hulk show. So a lot of people complaining about that. So I think maybe there's going to be a shift coming on, but overall I liked it. It was very fun and lighthearted, and the action scenes were very good. I thought Christian Bale did an amazing job actually as the antagonist. So yeah, I recommend it.
Nice. What about you, Sean?
Nothing.
Nice. No games, no music.
Well, you said, what are we watching? What have we been watching lately?
What have you been watching? What have you been listening to, seeing, hearing, smelling?
Well, nothing listening either.
All right. That was short and sweet too.
No, okay.
No, you're done.
No. So I've been listening to an artist named Audrey Nuna. She does kind of R&B and soul kind of music, and she's great. I would definitely recommend anyone to listen to her if they want to have like a chill afternoon.
Next week's pick is going to be another classic, The Exorcist, 1973. Go ahead, give it a score yourself when you watch it, and join the conversation by leaving a comment on the new Ardent Cinema YouTube channel. I look forward to joining the conversations there and continuing this. Sean, Danny, where's all the places they can find us?
So you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. And jumping off of Alejandro's point, please do give us a good rating, a download on all your favorite podcast apps. We're pretty much on any podcast app that you can think of at this point, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. So please give us a rating, comments. We'd love to hear from you guys, and anything like that will really help the show.
Goodbye, and long live the new flesh.
Wait a minute, that's the wrong movie.
Farewell.
No.
Play music.